And I guess you just got to be very careful in that. Keep focusing on having a routine is absolutely critical.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't have a routine, well, there's nothing else to do.
Mm-hmm. Hey guys, welcome back to the Leadership Stack Show. For today, we have a very special guest for you. I'm going to introduce him. Currently, he is the head of internal affairs at Fox News Channel. He's interviewed personalities like Donald Trump, the Navy SEALs who killed Osama bin Laden, which I am very interested to hear about, by the way. America's most famous pastor, Bishop T.D. Jakes, the world's most popular mystic, Sadhguru. He's interviewed some of the most interesting people that I can only dream of interviewing as well. And he's the author to critically acclaimed book, CPR. So you might want to check that out. And during his career, he has helped navigate teams and organizations through a lot of crises. So some of those crises are the 1997 Asian financial crisis. I'm sure most of you guys here still remember that. I remember that, the 2000 dot-com bubble, the 9/11 terrorist attacks, you name it. And since we are right now in the face of a pandemic, which is also a crisis and has turned actually into a huge economic crisis, my business has suffered as well. I think it is very timely that we have Vipp Jaswal on the show. Vipp, thank you so much for being here. I mean, you must be super duper busy based on all of the stuff that I just mentioned, and you have given us some of your time to share with us some of your knowledge, some of your wisdom.
Well, I'd like to start by saying salamat po, because in Philippines, that means hello, how are you, right?
Yes, thank you. That means thank you.
And the po means respect, right?
Yes, yes, that's right.
That's right. That's right. So it's a pleasure being on your show. Like I told you earlier, I was looking at your radio shows and your YouTube videos, and one of the speeches you gave, talking about SEO and things like that. So it's an honor to be with you, even though there's a huge time difference. I'm ending my day and you're starting yours.
Likewise, I feel like it is a big honor to have you here. So
No,
feeling is mutual.
believe me, the honor is all mine.
Okay, Vip. Well, that enthusiasm I hope would not fade with the questions, the questions that I have, and
It
what
depends on the questions. Be gentle.
I would definitely. We'll start off with something soft, and as I am also very curious about what you do, I want to know, what does your daily life look like?
Daily life, I'm usually up by 5, around 5, at the most 6. I like to start early because it sort of gives me a sense of control, that I have more control over my time, because I find the later that I get up, the more I'm rushing around.
Right.
But funnily enough, for the last 4 months with the lockdown and things like that, there's nowhere to rush to. But I guess it gets into a habit. So I get up around 5, probably work out for an hour, have some coffee, breakfast, things like that. And first thing I do is look at news. What's the latest downside of today? What else has happened? So especially being in the U.S. and U.S. is suffering a lot from the COVID things, and there's always something happening, and we have the elections coming. So there's never a dull moment. I guess the most constructive part of my day is usually right at the very beginning, on the front end of the day. So I try and put 2-3 hours on the creative and productive side. And then I get into more of the administration tasks after lunch and things like that. I do sort of finish my day early because I start early. And then I spend time with family and maybe cook something. Every night's a movie night. then catch up on a bit of reading and things like that. So even though it's busy, I think I don't know what it is about the COVID thing, but you tend to have a better appreciation of what you have left, believe it or not, which is usually time and family. And also, you end up looking after yourself a bit better. It's been tough, like for everybody else, but I found more ways of making it productive and pleasant. And that's the secret of getting through this, because otherwise, if you actually look and step into reality, the world's in chaos.
It is.
And
It is.
there are times where subconsciously I just want to go to the mall or do something, and suddenly I realize I can't do that. And then you start feeling, it's possible to get so easily depressed, so easily stressed, even claustrophobic.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing, sort of the little things in life that you once could do for free that you no longer can do anymore.
Yeah.
You can't walk out without a face mask. You're very careful of when someone walks past you, how close they are to you. This whole social distancing and things like that. So it's amazing what we've taken for granted.
Yeah.
And I guess you just got to be very careful in that. Keep focusing on having a routine is absolutely critical.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't have a routine, well, there's nothing else to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, we start getting content fatigue. Have you been getting that?
Content fatigue?
Like, how much Netflix can you watch? How much on the internet can you be?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that slight element of the content fatigue that settles in. So if you don't have a routine,
Mm-hmm.
where you're doing things and you're using time, you'll find time will start using you.
Yeah.
And days become weeks and weeks become months, and
Yeah.
and hopefully it stops there, but you don't want it to become years.
Yeah.
So it's very critical to have a routine.
Right. And so you're way past your bedtime right now, I assume.
For you, I would stay up till midnight
Oh,
to
thank
be
you
on
so
that
much.
show.
Here, for you listening, this is actually a very, very giving episode already, because it is way past Vip's bedtime. I'm a night owl. I don't wake up at 5 a.m. I could only dream of doing that. Speaking of giving, speaking of I could see in your website that you are doing a lot of philanthropy work, and it is on the upper part of your website actually. So I could see that you're giving it much importance, and I wonder, why are you such a giver right now? Where is all that coming from?
Because I was a taker in the early part of my life. So I'm giving back what life's given me. So when I say I was a taker, I don't mean that in a selfish sort of way, but when I was your age and I was very focused on building my life, whether that was in the form of building my career, building my family, building a home, so everything focused around my environment. I think there comes a time in every person's life at a certain age where you're relatively happy where you're at. And you, as a way of gratitude to what life's given you, you want to give back. And I thought long and hard in what way I could give back. And one of the ways I could give back was through mentoring. But as I found, I do a lot of public speaking. And I do a lot of public speaking to the US military and other organizations. And one of the things that people kept coming to me to talk about was how to handle depression, anxiety, stress. It's become such a common thing, but it's become a stigma as well. People don't like to talk about it. So I don't know what it's like in the Philippines, but in the US, the statistics of depression are getting higher and higher every year. And since I'm not medically qualified, I felt mentoring and helping people with their mental and emotional state or challenges could be one way I could give back. So I set up this foundation called HEAL. And HEAL actually stands for helping everyone achieve life. Simply because a lot of the people I mentor, the young people, the amount of mental and emotional challenges they face is extremely frightening. And these are young people who have everything going for them. They come from good families. They've been to private schools. They're well-traveled. But something in their life is not fitting right. And it's almost like a stigma for them to go and be able to talk about it with their friends or with their relatives and things like that. And when one person in a family is depressed, it's sometimes quite common for the whole family to get depressed.
Wow.
Because they're all worried about this one person, and so as a result, the problem with depression is unless you've been depressed, you're not able to understand
Right.
what depression is like.
Yeah.
Because it affects you mentally, it affects you emotionally, it affects you physically. And I always say, the best liars are the ones who are depressed, because every time you ask them, how are you? They say, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And the best conversations happen when one depressed person speaks to another depressed person, because only both of them understand what the other's going through.
Yeah. Why is it that you chose to help these people, especially the younger ones, who are struggling with this?
Why the younger ones?
Why the younger ones who are struggling with depression and anxiety and stress, when you could have paid it forward some other way? I mean, it is a difficult thing.
It is a difficult thing. I think, how do I put it? Coming from a business world, right? If each of these scenarios were a business, if I had to choose where I would want to help, I feel things like cancer, diseases are already well funded and well resourced all around the world. I want to help where I feel I have made a little bit of a difference. And I can only do that where there are scenarios that are either not well funded or well resourced, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And mental and emotional challenges, people who face, we're just getting to explore this scenario all around the world. It's still regarded as taboo. People I don't know what it's like in the Philippines, but people in the US, it's still taking time for people to acknowledge that this is a symptom. But it's a symptom that's spreading like wildfire. The US military has a very high suicidal rate.
Wow.
That's not a topic that's mentioned very often in the media.
Mm-hmm.
Almost 11 out of 100 people suffer from depression. Now, in a first world country, over 10%, 1 in 10.
Yep.
That's a huge number.
It is.
And we're talking about people who are depressed. When you look at them, when you see their background, you suddenly you feel like, what are you depressed about? You come from a good family. You have dad's credit card. You have a car. You have a home. You go to private school. What could you possibly be depressed about?
And what's usually the answer?
They don't know.
Wow.
Some of them say they have too much, so as a result, they don't feel they have the desire to go and achieve anything. If dads bought them a BMW when they were 18, now they go out in the real world, and it'll take them at least another 7-8 years of a career before they can comfortably afford a BMW. So on one end, you're given it, and then when you realize that you have to work so many years to actually get the same thing, you almost feel like you backtracked.
Yeah, that's true.
Because 7-8 years later, you're still getting the same thing that you got 7-8 years before.
Right.
So, and also, maybe that they have been given so much that they don't feel they have the need or the desire to go out and achieve something, because they have to work twice as hard to get to the same level that they left their parents home with.
Right. And I want to ask a question about how, if we do know someone who might be struggling with this, or if there is a listener who would like to reach out to you for help,
right?
Do they just go to your website and
they just go to the website? There's a submit a form. It's basically just your email and your name.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Got it.
Reach out and we have a whole community. I'm actually in the process of building an app.
Wow.
To help people who want to control or take control of what's controlling them.
Amazing.
So there are some of these apps that are already out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I how can I put it? I think they work for a certain type of people, or a certain type of person, and they're very pretty. they'll have sound of a river, or they'll have celebrities reading out a bedtime story. So there's a lot of like glamour around this.
Right.
But when you are emotionally challenged or depressed, you really don't want to hear the sound of a river, or the sound of a breeze, or Kim Kardashian telling you a good night story or something like that. But for a start, if I was listening to a storybook where she was narrating it, I couldn't go to sleep
Yeah.
because I'd be so excited. Oh my God, it's Kanye West or Kim reading a good night, and I paid $5 for it. Why would I go to sleep?
Right.
It sort of defeats the purpose. So what I'm trying to build is a no-nonsense app for people who go through these challenges, where they actually feel that they are taking charge of controlling what is controlling them.
And
So
I'm
like a
sure.
lot of these apps, in the morning they'll send me an emoji. Like, how do you feel today? 5 emojis is one that's crying, one that's angry, one that's sleepy, and I find it condescending
Really? Why
to
is that?
be dealing with an emoji. So I'm looking for something a little more real, because it's almost like you're dealing with a cartoon. So I guess it works for some sort of people, but for those who want a more realistic, a more hands-on, a
Hmm.
more practical approach, then that's the market that I want to cater to.